Most seniors believe cheese falls into one of two categories. It is either completely unhealthy for their cardiovascular system, or it is a perfectly harmless, traditional source of protein and calcium. But after 60, I have watched certain cheeses quietly increase systemic inflammation, digestive stress, blood pressure volatility, and even arterial aging in ways most older adults never suspect. One of the most common statements I hear from patients in my clinic is, "Doctor, I've eliminated the obvious junk food, so why do I still feel chronically swollen, tired, foggy, or stiff in the mornings?" Surprisingly often, the issue is not high-sugar snacks. It is heavily processed formulas disguised as traditional comfort foods. After 60, your physiological landscape undergoes a massive shift. Your blood vessels become naturally more fragile. Your sodium sensitivity increases, your gastric motility slows, and your gut microbiome becomes significantly easier to disrupt. This means cheese is no longer just a simple question of calcium or fat. It becomes a critical biological signal. Certain commercial cheeses now place a crushing recovery burden on your aging metabolism, while other traditional options become surprisingly supportive of your bone and muscle architecture. I am Dr. Jonathan Reid. Today we are conducting a vital clinical audit of your dairy intake. We will expose the 4 worst cheeses accelerating metabolic decline, followed by the 4 best cheeses engineered to work in perfect harmony with a body over 60. Worst cheese number 4, pre-shredded cheese. The first major error I encounter in the daily routines of well-meaning older adults is the reliance on commercial pre-shredded cheese. You purchase these convenient bags of shredded cheddar, mozzarella, or taco blends because they save you time in the kitchen. They make it incredibly easy to sprinkle cheese over your morning eggs, baked dishes, or evening casseroles. From your perspective, it is the exact same high-quality cheese, just pre-cut for your convenience. From a clinical perspective, however, the heavy industrial processing required to maintain that convenience permanently alters the biological impact of the food, turning a simple dairy product into a source of digestive irritation and chronic histamine load. The biological mechanism driving this internal stress centers on the additives required to keep industrial cheese strands from fusing together inside the plastic bag. Manufacturers routinely coat pre-shredded cheese with anti-caking agents, cellulose powder, natamycin, and artificial preservatives. Furthermore, by shredding the cheese weeks before it reaches your plate, processors drastically increase its total exposed surface area. This massive surface area accelerates lipid oxidation and triggers a rapid accumulation of histamines and aging biogenic amines within the bag. After 60, your physiological defenses are modified. Your digestive enzyme production naturally declines, your gut barrier resilience weakens, and your body's overall ability to break down circulating histamines slows down. When you consume pre-shredded cheese, these oxidized fats and chemical anti-caking agents act as an irritant to a sensitive gastrointestinal tract. I call this the convenience overload. Instead of smoothly absorbing nutrients, your aging system experiences sudden abdominal bloating, systemic inflammatory responses, and a low-grade digestive heaviness that makes your daily meals quietly harder to recover from. The convenience stays entirely on the packaging, but the biological stress stays inside your body. To ensure metabolic precision, you must stop feeding your cells these processed additives. A far superior choice is to buy a fresh, traditional block of cheese and slice or grate it at home, protecting your bloodstream from unnecessary industrial stress. Worst cheese number 3, processed cheese slices. We move next to a product that has been an absolute staple of the American kitchen for generations, the individually wrapped processed cheese slice. You reach for these bright yellow squares because they melt perfectly, possess an incredibly smooth texture, and offer a nostalgic, familiar taste for your sandwiches and burgers. From your perspective, it is a simple, comforting food that is easy to chew and digest. From a clinical perspective, however, this product behaves far more like an ultra-processed industrial formula than real, traditional dairy, subjecting your cardiovascular network to severe vascular inflammation and fluid overload. Consider the case of my patient, Arthur, a 68-year-old retired postal worker who came to my clinic struggling with unexplainable morning swelling in his ankles, creeping blood pressure readings, and a persistent, low-grade midday fatigue. Arthur was highly diligent about his health. He had cut out fast food, limited his red meat, and walked daily. However, nearly every afternoon, he made a homemade turkey sandwich using 2 slices of processed American cheese, genuinely believing it was a benign, protein-rich addition. From his perspective, it was a clean, controlled lunch. From a clinical perspective, he was caught in the synthetic sodium trap. The biological mechanism driving Arthur's symptoms is the dense concentration of emulsifying salts, specifically sodium phosphates, and industrial stabilizing oils used to keep processed cheese shelf-stable and meltable. Unlike the natural sodium found in whole foods, these synthetic phosphorus additives are absorbed completely and immediately into the bloodstream. After 60, your biological architecture undergoes a permanent shift. Your kidney reserve filtration capacity naturally declines. Your arterial walls become more fragile, and your overall blood pressure sensitivity to excess sodium increases dramatically. When Arthur consumed these processed slices, the rapid influx of sodium phosphates triggered an immediate fluid retention response, forcing his changing cardiovascular system to pump harder against stiffening blood vessels. It may look like traditional cheese, but your aging blood vessels experience it as an acute chemical stressor. Once we removed the industrial slices from Arthur's routine and replaced them with fresh Swiss cheese, his ankle swelling completely vanished within 10 days, and his blood pressure stabilized. To preserve vascular longevity, you must stop feeding your cells industrial formulas your body was never designed to process. Slicing real cheese fresh from the block ensures you get authentic nutrition without the cardiovascular burden. Worst cheese number 2, blue cheese. We progress to a variety that many seniors associate with sophisticated dining, gourmet entertaining, and culinary indulgence: blue cheese. Whether you are crumbing it over a fresh autumn salad, pairing it with fruit on a charcuterie board, or incorporating it into a rich, savory dressing, you reach for this cheese because it feels elevated and luxurious. From your perspective, it is an artisanal treat that enhances a mature, refined palate while providing a dense source of calcium. From a clinical perspective, however, this pungent variety acts as a direct, silent trigger for systemic histamine intolerance and vascular hyperreactivity. The underlying biological mechanism driving this unexpected adverse reaction centers on the intense concentration of histamine and tyramine generated during the unique mold ripening process. As blue cheese undergoes its lengthy aging and fermentation cycle with Penicillium roqueforti, the intense breakdown of dairy proteins results in a massive, disproportionate accumulation of these biogenic amines. When a younger person eats blue cheese, their digestive tract produces an abundant supply of diamine oxidase, DAO, the native enzyme responsible for breaking down and neutralizing histamines before they enter the bloodstream. But after 60, your internal chemistry undergoes a critical, permanent shift. Your natural production of the DAO enzyme naturally declines, your gut barrier resilience weakens, and your baseline vascular sensitivity increases. When you consume blue cheese, these highly active biogenic amines enter your bloodstream completely unhindered and structurally intact. I call this the biogenic vascular spike. Instead of a peaceful, nourishing digestive process, this sudden chemical influx triggers immediate, localized inflammation and unpredictable vascular dilation. This manifests physically as unexplainable, throbbing morning headaches, sudden facial flushing or heat, immediate digestive discomfort, and acute nighttime restlessness or sleep disruption. Many older adults spend months visiting specialists trying to diagnose their sudden fatigue or late-night insomnia, completely unaware that their premium evening snack is driving the physiological chaos. Aging bodies tolerate these highly inflammatory compounds far less quietly than they once did. A chemical load you could neutralize seamlessly at 30 now completely overwhelms your neurological and vascular defenses. To protect your vascular precision, you must stop introducing these high histamine triggers into a changing system. A far superior choice for an older adult seeking deep, complex, and mature flavor is a small, controlled portion of traditionally aged Parmesan or Swiss Gruyere, which delivers exceptional satisfaction without the inflammatory backlash. Worst cheese. Number 1. Shelf-stable cheese spreads. We have arrived at the absolute pinnacle of dairy deception, the commercial shelf-stable cheese spread. Found in convenient squeeze tubes, pressurized aerosol cans, or glass jars sitting entirely unrefrigerated in the center aisles of the grocery store. You likely purchase these products because they are exceptionally creamy, easy to spread on crackers, and require zero kitchen preparation. From your perspective, it is a highly convenient, shelf-stable comfort snack. From a clinical perspective, however, this product represents a massive industrial abuse of human physiology. Consider the case of my patient, Evelyn, a 72-year-old former school administrator who came to my clinic complaining of persistent, unexplainable brain fog, profound afternoon fatigue, and a frustrating rapid weight gain around her midsection. Evelyn was highly disciplined. She prepared almost all of her meals at home, avoided sugary desserts, and tracked her daily steps. However, her weakness was a daily evening ritual, spreading 2 tablespoons of a popular shelf-stable cheddar paste onto whole grain crackers while watching the news. She chose it because it was soft, required no slicing, and the label proudly claimed it was made with real dairy. From her perspective, it was a harmless, portion-controlled snack. From a clinical perspective, she was introducing a highly disruptive foreign compound into her system every single night. I call this the synthetic barrier breach. The underlying biological reality is clear. Real, authentic cheese was never structurally designed to survive completely unrefrigerated on a dry grocery shelf for months at a time. To force dairy to achieve this artificial lifespan, manufacturers must strip away the natural living components of the food and replace them with a volatile matrix of hydrogenated oils, chemical emulsifiers, excess artificial stabilizers, and an absolute sodium overload. After 60, your physiological baseline is uniquely vulnerable. Your intestinal epithelial lining naturally becomes more fragile. Your systemic inflammation markers remain chronically elevated, and your aging blood vessels are highly susceptible to damage from processed industrial trans fats. When Evelyn consumed this shelf-stable spread, the synthetic emulsifiers actively irritated her sensitive gut lining, while the hydrogenated fats triggered a prolonged inflammatory response that drained her cellular energy. This hidden metabolic stress is precisely what drove her severe brain fog and sudden abdominal fluid retention. Once we completely removed the shelf-stable formula from Evelyn's routine and replaced it with a cultured organic cottage cheese, her brain fog lifted within a week and she regained her natural daytime stamina. Precision in your 60s means ruthlessly eliminating these shelf-stable defaults from your pantry to protect your changing metabolic framework. But this does not mean seniors must fear cheese entirely. Running toward extreme restrictions that banish dairy will only leave you structurally weak and vulnerable to muscle loss. The clinical reality is that your body still deeply benefits from the concentrated calcium and proteins that authentic dairy provides. However, the exact structural integrity and fermentation process of that cheese matter entirely. We must shift our strategy away from ultra-processed, sodium-loaded formulas that drain your reserves and move toward artisanal choices designed to protect your changing physiology. Let us examine the 4 best cheeses engineered to work in perfect harmony with a body over 60. Best cheese number 4, Parmigiano Reggiano. We begin the restoration of your protocol with a true gold standard of traditional dairy, authentic Parmigiano Reggiano. From a clinical perspective, incorporating this structured cheese represents a profound advancement in protein bioavailability and digestive workload reduction. The biological mechanism that makes Parmigiano Reggiano exceptionally superior for an older adult is its multi-year aging process, which triggers a natural phenomenon known as pre-digestion. As this cheese matures over 24 to 36 months, active enzymes completely break down complex dairy proteins into highly bioavailable, shorter-chain peptides and free amino acids. Furthermore, this structural aging entirely eliminates the lactose content. After 60, your stomach acid production naturally drops, and your body struggles to absorb the dense protein required to prevent age-related muscle wasting. When you consume Parmigiano Reggiano, you are not forcing a fragile digestive tract to do heavy lifting. Your body absorbs the vital calcium, phosphorus, and muscle-building proteins almost instantly. I call this the clean absorption matrix. Instead of causing post-meal bloating or sluggishness, it provides a rapid delivery of essential nutrients without introducing any inflammatory burden or digestive stress to your changing system. Best cheese number 3, sheep milk feta. We move next to an exceptional, highly therapeutic option derived from traditional Mediterranean agriculture, authentic sheep milk feta. While many older adults avoid feta because they associate it with standard, mass-produced cow's milk varieties, from a clinical perspective, traditional sheep's milk feta functions as a powerful asset for digestive longevity and mineral density. The biological mechanism that makes sheep milk feta remarkably superior for an older body is its unique fat and protein structure. Sheep's milk contains a highly concentrated volume of short and medium-chain fatty acids, MCFAs, compared to standard cow's milk. These smaller lipid molecules are broken down and absorbed with immense efficiency by your gastrointestinal tract, requiring significantly less pancreatic lipase and bile output to process. Furthermore, sheep's milk is naturally rich in the A2 beta-casein protein structure, which does not release the inflammatory peptides associated with standard commercial dairy. After 60, your internal architecture undergoes a natural shift. Your baseline digestive motility slows, your natural gut barrier resilience weakens, and your ability to process heavy, complex fats declines. When you consume traditional sheep feta, you are delivering a dense source of highly absorbable calcium, phosphorus, and essential proteins without triggering the post-meal heaviness or low-grade gut inflammation that plagues many seniors. I call this the low-burden nutrient shield. Additionally, the natural fermentation process involved in traditional feta production yields beneficial organic acids that actively support a delicate gut microbiome. By incorporating small, crumbled portions of authentic sheep milk feta into your meals, you provide your skeletal system with the exact raw minerals it requires to maintain density, while completely respecting the slower processing speed of your changing digestive framework. Best cheese number 2, aged Gouda. The next critical addition to your longevity protocol is a beautifully structured, traditional choice that addresses one of the most dangerous silent threats to an older body, authentic aged Gouda. While most seniors choose cheese based purely on flavor or fat content, from a clinical perspective, incorporating aged Gouda into your routine represents a major advancement in arterial protection and bone mineralization. The biological mechanism driving this exceptional systemic support is the dense concentration of vitamin K2, specifically menaquinone 7, generated by the specific starter cultures used during its extended aging process. After 60, your body faces a dangerous physiological dilemma, often referred to as the calcium paradox. As you age, calcium naturally begins to leach out of your skeletal system, leaving your bones fragile. Tragically, that circulating calcium frequently deposits inside your vascular network, hardening your arterial walls and accelerating cardiovascular stiffness. Vitamin K2 acts as the biological traffic controller that solves this exact crisis. It activates osteocalcin to bind calcium tightly to your bone matrix, while simultaneously activating matrix GLA protein to aggressively sweep excess calcium out of your arteries. I call this the vascular decalcification shield. Furthermore, because Gouda is aged for many months, its lactose content is virtually non-existent, and its proteins are highly broken down, making it exceptionally gentle on a slower digestive tract. By enjoying a small, firm wedge of aged Gouda, you aren't just eating a comforting food, you are delivering the exact biochemical signal your body requires to keep your blood vessels flexible and your skeletal system structurally sound. Best cheese number 1, traditional Swiss Gruyere. We have arrived at the definitive gold standard for senior dairy nutrition, the absolute pinnacle of cellular support. Traditional Swiss Gruyere. Because it possesses a rich, nutty flavor, you might assume it is merely a luxury item meant for special occasions. From a clinical perspective, however, the extensive traditional aging process of this specific cheese creates an unparalleled matrix of probiotic defense and muscle-sparing peptides. The underlying biological mechanism that makes Swiss Gruyere uniquely superior for an older body is the survival of specific, highly resilient strains of beneficial bacteria, particularly Propionibacterium freudenreichi, combined with a massive concentration of glutathione-supportive amino acids. After 60, your internal architecture demands a fundamental shift in food quality. Your baseline digestive capacity drops, your natural cellular antioxidant defenses weaken, and your body enters a state of natural muscle loss. Gruyere targets every single one of these aging vulnerabilities simultaneously. I call this the cellular rejuvenation matrix. The long, controlled aging process in Swiss caves breaks the dairy down into highly absorbable, short-chain peptides that your body can immediately utilize to repair muscle tissue, demanding zero heavy digestive lifting. Furthermore, the native probiotic compounds survive the stomach acid barrier, actively colonizing a slowing gut microbiome to suppress systemic inflammation and enhance nutrient absorption. It provides your cells with dense, steady nourishment without forcing an aging metabolism into a prolonged state of recovery mode. Precision in your 60s means choosing foods that deliver the highest possible nutritional yield with the absolute lowest physiological cost. Authentic Swiss Gruyere does exactly that, making it the most clinically sound, restorative cheese for a changing body. Cheese after 60 is no longer just about taste. It becomes a direct negotiation with your aging physiology. A critical question of systemic inflammation, digestive workload, vascular pressure, and how much recovery burden a food places on your vital organs. The convenient, heavily marketed options on grocery shelves are often the ones that demand the most exhausting metabolic work from your system. The purpose of this clinical audit was to shift you completely away from the habitual purchase, the dangerous assumption that your changing body can process synthetic emulsifiers, oxidized fats, or explosive sodium loads the same way it did decades ago. When you intentionally reject the convenience trap of pre-shredded bags, eliminate the vascular stress of shelf-stable spreads, and choose the structural integrity of Parmigiano Reggiano, sheep milk feta, aged Gouda, and authentic Swiss Gruyere, you are practicing true physiological precision. Managing the internal friction your food creates is a non-negotiable habit for longevity. A life defined by absolute physical independence, structural strength, and sharp cognitive focus is entirely within your reach. But you must feed the biological architecture you have today, not the one you had 30 years ago. If you want the safest place to begin, your instructions are simple. Reduce highly processed cheese products, shelf-stable spreads, and ultra-processed slices immediately. Shift your focus toward traditional, aged, and fermented cheeses that your body can digest seamlessly. Pay close attention to your morning joint stiffness, your blood pressure, and your digestion an hour after eating. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these cheeses is currently sitting in your refrigerator? And have you noticed the morning swelling or afternoon fog we discussed? Be honest. If you found this audit valuable, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. I am Dr. Jonathan Reid. Treat your body with the clinical respect it has earned. And remember, your food is no longer just fuel. It is the exact information your cells require to build your future. I will see you in the next clinical audit.